we did like $30 million worth of work on the buildings, but the kids loved it. We bought them brand new lunch tables that were, the school colors. And we're all sitting there going, man, we did all this infrastructure, do all the stuff you want under the ground and behind the wall, but make sure you do stuff that people can enjoy and see too.
For those who may not know you yet, can you share a bit about who you are and your role and what drew you to this type of work?
I I started in schools in 1984. Never intended to stay in schools, but like I like to say, they just kept promoting me. So I worked my way up from the very bottom in Capistrano Unified, became executive director of facilities by 1999. So in 15 years, I moved up, and then then I went to Santa Ana Unified in 2008 as the assistant superintendent of facilities and governmental relations, and worked there till 2015. I formed my consulting company before I left Santa Ana in 2014. Um, I taught facilities maintenance and operations and transportation at Cal State Fullerton for 11 years, and it's CASBO. So people watching this should know what CASBO is: the California Association of School Business Officials. It's for their CBO program, the Chief Business Official Program. Then I became chair of the organization Coalition for Adequate School Housing, or CASH, in 2013 while I was at Santa Ana Unified. When I was chair, we put Prop 51 on the ballot to put a state school bond on the ballot. And we got that passed, and that was fantastic. Meanwhile, I started teaching in the CASH School Facilities Leadership Academy, and we grew that from about 25 attendees to 55 attendees.
Oh, wow.
I started the CASH again is Coalition for Adequate School Housing. Started the CASH Maintenance and Operations Leadership Academy. We've had 5 cohorts in that so far. So I've been pretty busy, and then this consulting gig. I have various clients throughout the state.
You've spent over 40 years transforming school environments. So when you look back, what moments really stand out as the most meaningful to you personally?
When I was in Santa Ana, um, we did a ton of work on active school sites, and one story that sticks out with me, we did this huge modernization project at Saddleback High School. We just made it a really good environment to learn in, and made the classrooms beautiful. Science classrooms were upgraded. The whole school was upgraded. The opening day of school report to the Board of Education, the student leaders from Saddleback were invited to come and share. And the only thing they could really talk about were the new lunch tables. you know, we did like $30 million worth of work on the buildings, but the kids,
Uh-huh.
and that's the way kids are, right? They
Yeah.
loved it. We bought them brand new lunch tables that were, the school colors, and we put up solar shade covers over their lunch area. They just thought that was the coolest thing. And we're all sitting
Yeah.
there going, man, we did all this infrastructure. And so the
Yeah. The
story
kids
there
don't see
is you
that.
can do all the stuff you want under the ground and behind the wall, but make sure you do stuff that people can enjoy and see too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And the kids are, well, it's not just the kids, but the kids are a big part of your customer base, right? They're the ones in there
They're
on
the
the
reason
ground.
we're here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they're the whole reason. Yeah.
You've worked with a ton of people and a ton of communities. Is there a student story or a community story that stayed with you through the years?
When we started fixing up the schools in Santa Ana, Santa Ana, the community of Santa Ana, the city of Santa Ana was at that time like the number one starting point for immigrants in America. Number one. And so even within the district, I think the number was like 90%, give or take a few percentage points, where there was a language other than English spoken at home.
Uh-huh.
So as we started fixing up the schools in Santa Ana High School in particular, which is the oldest high school in Santa Ana, it was built in 1934, and it was a mess, frankly, when we got there. When I got there, but we passed the bond. We started cleaning it up, fixing it up, and it's a beautiful old school architecturally. And we fixed up the grounds and took down all the fences, made it into Parade magazine about all this work too, by the way. And pretty soon, all the homes around Santa Ana High School were painted, were groomed, were cleaned up. The whole area flourished because the school looked better. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And people
Yeah.
commented on it all the time. And then, when you take pride in your community, and most people want to take pride in where they live, but if you know what, if the biggest structure, the biggest draw in your community is a school, and the school looks like garbage, then you probably don't have as much pride and care that you do when it's cleaned up and looks good. And that's
Yeah.
that's a true story. People commented about that all the time.
Mhm. That's amazing. There's a theory. I don't know if you're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's work. He wrote a book. This one's a quite older book now, called Tipping Point. And he has a theory in there about broken windows and how if you have a neighborhood and you go through this neighborhood and there's a lot of broken windows and just really run down, if you go in there and you clean up like the community center or start fixing all these broken windows, it becomes a domino effect and the whole neighborhood starts to clean up and take more pride in their neighborhood. It sounds like you had your own broken window
Yeah,
theory in Santa Ana.
yeah.
That's
I
really neat.
think I've heard that before. I never read the book, but I've heard that broken window thing before. Yeah.
If you could design and build your dream school from scratch, what would it include to prepare students for the future?
Well, I think a lot of schools are going this way now anyway, but everything should be a sustainable design. And we always like to say schools need to be timeless also, but I would design a school that attracts kids to go there. So whatever is the attractor for that community, and that could be a different constituency within a school district, for example, different areas would have, is what you should build a school for. I think now public schools have to compete, with private schools, have to compete with charter schools, have to compete with religious schools. You just have to compete. So the school I would design would have those elements in it that the kids want. You want to have kids want to come to school, especially at the high school level. Here's a pretty cool story too. So one of the lowest performing high schools in California, maybe the nation, we did a solar. We installed solar, and we started an academy, a solar academy. We started this academy in this low performing school. In one year, won the science award because they built a solar car. They won the science award at Stanford University
Wow.
in
Oh,
in
that
one
is so
year. Well, that
wow.
so you can even take an old school and
Yeah.
create some pretty neat little, things that kids want to do. Like
Yeah.
this academy going to Stanford, they didn't have to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But they wanted to. They wanted to. They're proud of it.
Yeah.
So there's not one answer to your question. I don't think. I think it depends. It depends on a lot of different factors. Yeah.
That's actually a thread I've heard from many of the people that are working for you right now is this listening, like this deep listening to what whichever school district or the stakeholders in that district, the teachers, the students, they listen and they say,
Mhm.
okay, this district needs this or this school needs that. And that's really just refreshing and nice to hear about that we don't have like this one solution that fits all schools. That's just not the way people work. And that's not the way these different districts and schools work. We actually go in and we listen and take into account what everyone is needing and thinking and saying.
Yeah, for sure. Good to hear.
So if you could go back and give your earlier career self one piece of advice at the start of your career, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
Well, so I went back to college. That's why I started working in schools. So go to college and get a business degree. I probably, looking back, because I ended up spending my career in schools, I probably should have pursued something that was geared towards schools. USC has a school business management program that's top notch. If I would have done something like that, I probably could have branched out into other areas besides facilities. I have no regrets. I had a business before I went into schools. I sold it, went back to college, went to work in school district, and thought, okay, I'll get my degree and get the heck out of here. But I didn't. I ended up staying. So there you go. But who knows? Who knows what path you're going to go down? Most people can act like, well, I'm going to be a doctor, teacher, fireman, policeman, or whatever, but they end up doing something else. You just never know, really.
Yeah, yeah. So outside of work, what hobbies or activities are keeping you grounded and energized right now?
I do travel quite a bit. I have to go to Texas in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I will be going to Europe in end of July. So
Okay.
I've been on all seven continents. You know, a couple of years ago we made it to Antarctica, so I could say that.
Huh. That is so
But
neat. Yeah.
travel's a lot of fun. You know, I
Wow.
like to look at architecture. I really enjoy absorbing culture, the different cultures. You know, I'm kind of sick of looking at castles and stuff like that, but sitting in a you know, in a small bar with a group of locals is kind of fun.
It's
And
the best. If you can find a
yeah,
group of locals that teach you the things about the city that's not just the tourist stuff, it's the best.
yeah, yeah. We played darts against a bunch of Germans in Germany.
Yeah?
The bar was called Route 66. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
Route 66.
yeah.
It's
We
a
drove it on
famous,
a
yeah,
road trip.
everybody is, right? Los Angeles to Chicago, right? So we played darts with them. It was the most fun I've ever had.
Oh,
Just hanging
neat.
out with locals playing darts.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. That is
Yeah.
one of the things I love about travel. We used to do conferences a lot in Europe, and there was one, we were in Vienna, and we were with some local people from there because they hosted the conference, and they took us to the best places to eat, and they were not the fancy places that you would think of. They were like hole in the wall. One of them was in an alley that kind of was sketchy, but I had the best Wiener Schnitzel of my life in that like back
Yeah.
alley, sketchy looking
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah.
But
No kidding. I mean, in Milan, we went to this back alley place, but this place was, you couldn't find it. It was in an alley. I asked the concierge, you know, where's an authentic Milano restaurant? And he sent us to this
uh-huh.
place, and my wife and I are like, oh my God, where's this driver taking us?
So, quick 5 questions. What is your go-to coffee order?
Grande non-fat latte.
Okay. What is your favorite leadership book or podcast?
Lincoln on leadership.
What is the best school lunch item?
Apple strudel.
Yeah. What was your first concert?
Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Nice. Okay. What a pleasure speaking with Joe Dixon from School Leaders. I love these behind the scenes conversations because they show us the real people doing this vital work, their journeys, their insights, and what motivates them every day. If you enjoyed this conversation, there are more great interviews like this one waiting for you in our series.